For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. It works in physics, and believe it or not, it works in public opinion as well. We just saw an awfully large action, the first official indictment of a former president in U.S. history. And guess what? There's already a pretty stunning reaction. Now, Joe Biden took a job approval hit with 2 out of his last 3 job approval overnight prints hitting 42%, while his full month-long March average was 47%. But that hasn't fully played out yet. No, I'm talking about Trump versus Biden. Now, here are the numbers from the last time we asked the question. In the second week of February, Joe Biden took home 45% of the vote in a 2024 rematch, and Trump took home only 42%. Now, for a host of reasons, this was Donald Trump's worst performance since November of 2020. And believe it or not, also the first time we had him losing to Biden since then. Here's the history. Trump came out of the gate in September 2021, right after the Afghanistan crisis, with a stunning 10-point lead and an incredible 51% of the vote. That lead increased just 2 months later to 13%, the widest it has ever been, though admittedly the other and third-party responses were pumped up to a massive 17% by an utter distaste in Biden. We ran this question again twice in 2022. In both polls, Trump won 46% to 40%, comfortably, though nowhere near the huge 13-point lead. But then came February of this year, and Trump had his first loss against Biden, trailing by 3 points. Why did that happen? My working theory is the 1-2 punch of a worse-than-expected midterm performance against Democrats, as well as possibly his pro-Kevin McCarthy stance, which wasn't popular among a lot of Republicans. Since then, we've had Trump's incredibly well-strategized trip to East Palestine, Ohio, some very well-attended Trump campaign events, and finally, this indictment. Where do we sit now? Trump beats President Biden by 7 points, his biggest lead since the fall of 2021, and the second highest proportion of the vote he's had since 2020. Here's how it looks on the graph, and it's a stunning and rapid turnaround. We're talking about less than 2 months here. Voters are now very much paying attention, and they do not like what they see. This comes just 1 week after 59% of voters also told us that Trump's indictment was outrageous and amounted to political vengeance. Here are the top 10 demographics where Trump picked up support over Biden since February, and it's absolutely stunning. Some of these demographics, like high school graduates, Republicans, and middle-aged voters, already lean Trump. But look at liberals and Democrats in the top 5. The pickup among women is also astounding. Biden led Trump among women by 8 points in just February, and now he trails by 7 points. Here are the current party numbers. 83% of Republicans would now vote Trump, up 9 points since February, and only 70% of Democrats would vote Biden. That's down a massive 12 points since February. Trump now has a 6-point crossover advantage, whereas in February, Biden had a 7-point advantage. I just can't emphasize enough how cataclysmically bad for Biden a 13-point shift in party crossover advantage is. In just 2 months. If there's any downside at all in these numbers for Trump, it's that the February lead Trump had among independents was 13 points, and it's now down to only 8. Independents are tricky and noisy, however, because a lot depends on the mix of whether the sample is more third-party or unaffiliated voters. But Trump has had a comfortable lead every time since 2020 among independents. Here are the race numbers, and Trump now leads 14 points among white voters, up an astounding 12 points. He actually does significantly worse among black voters, but his numbers among Hispanic and other race voters have shifted an incredible 19 points in his favor. Again, black and Hispanic voters are smaller and noisier demographics, but those spreads are well outside their margins of error. Let's stop in on income too, and you can clearly see here that Biden's support is very strongly coming from upper income earners. He leads by 29% among those with incomes over $200,000. But he loses by 30 among the lowest income earners. Now here's the thing. We didn't just ask about Trump's current chances against Biden, we also asked about Ron DeSantis' chances. The answer? Better in some ways, but not in others. Here are his numbers against Biden, and this is the first time we've asked this question. He actually has a bigger lead over Biden than Trump, but the not sures and some other candidate responses draw not just from Biden, but also a point from DeSantis. The truth is that most of the some other candidate responses are probably going to break Democrat when push comes to shove, and a higher magnitude of the vote means more to me than the size of the lead. Now, of course, keep in mind, this is before Ron DeSantis has declared, before the corporate media knives come out, and before even a single debate with Trump. But what is interesting is the opportunity to compare where DeSantis does better than Trump, demographically. Here are his best and his worst demos. He does better with Biden somewhat approves by an astounding 27%. I would basically call these people normies or the politically disconnected, as I've spoken about in other videos. High school dropouts, not sure what's going on there. And upper incomes, which should be viewed suspiciously. And most importantly, black voters and 18 to 39-year-olds. I doubt the black vote advantage would hold up, but I really do think the 18 to 39-year-old advantage would hold up, at least somewhat. I suspect what's going on there has something to do with mainstream news. Now, Trump's biggest advantages are among low-income earners, those who strongly disapprove of Biden, to whom Trump support is likely acting kind of like a purity test, high school graduates, and middle-aged voters. But look at that next one, Republicans. That's the one that matters, and Trump has an edge there, just like he has an edge on favorability over DeSantis. That's one more sign to me that this primary would be an uphill battle for DeSantis. But of course, the biggest clue for me was when we added Nikki Haley to the primary slate, and she not only drew mostly from DeSantis, but Trump gained, leading DeSantis by 28 points among Republicans. That was almost 6 weeks ago, but of course, the corporate pollsters are just now catching up. Did you learn something interesting today? The first presidential indictment in history, and it made Trump the most electable he's been in a year and a half. I have a feeling this presidential cycle has some more surprises in store. So please follow us on Twitter, subscribe, and comment on YouTube. And thanks for watching.